No, that's the best way to start off the podcast. I feel like let's just jump right into the deep dive, right?
Yeah,
Is
who has
for
time to
you,
waste?
yeah, for you, you speak about as being Albanian, and we've talked numerous times. What does loyalty mean to you from your point of view?
Ooh, everything. Loyalty is everything. If you don't have loyalty, you're just wandering around with no gravity. To me, loyalty is gravity. That's what it is. And what I remind myself, because it's not always natural for a lot of people, but what I remind myself is in order to want to receive it, you have to be the leader to provide it first. Because when you provide it first, you are showing people who you are. And for the ones who don't identify loyalty because maybe they have been disappointed over and over and they're sick and tired to hear that word one more time because they truly don't believe in it. They don't believe in people that still have the loyalty. You kind of retraining them by how you show up and not necessarily having full conversations of what loyalty is and what it does for you. Because again, depending who you're speaking with and how much you know about them will determine how serious they will take the word loyalty or not. So always self-checking and being aware that not everyone is going to know about it. Not everybody is uh, has had the fortune to experience loyalty. And this is why I say loyalty is everything, and it truly is when it comes to relationships, to self loyalty first. Are you loyal to yourself? So let's start there. Are you loyal to
Absolutely.
yourself? And therefore, you'll be loyal to others too as a result, because you know how beautiful it is. And then when you see the lack of loyalty from others, then you have to make executive decisions, not calculated risks, executive decisions if you want to continue to associate yourself with that situation or a person or a business ship and partnership. So and Albanians are swear by it. Like we honor loyalty. It's sacred for us, and we apply it on a daily basis to everything and everyone. Now, is it everybody? No. Just like everything else, it's it's a beautiful thing to possess, truly. But I don't
Hmm.
believe everyone is loyal. Not everybody is loyal.
Hmm.
That's the sad part.
That is the sad part. And, that's why I like to just jump into the conversation when we're doing a podcast. You know what I mean? We don't do the fancy intros. I'm not going to intro you in. We just get right straight into the conversation. Migena, welcome to the podcast. And,
Thank you. Thank you.
we speak about loyalty. We speak about connection, collaboration, all those great things. We met on a application that is out now. I don't know if you got the email today. If you checked your email, over 10,000
1,000
users,
users in 4 days.
right? The app called Chatter. If anybody has not heard about this, like,
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know. You got to follow Migena on Instagram. You got to follow me on Instagram. You got to see our story posts. Nelson Apega, hats off to you. Shout outs to you for creating this beast, which I think is going to change the game of what social audio is looking like. You know what I mean?
oh,
And things like that.
so true. I couldn't agree more. And coming from someone who has been against social media for a very long time, I did not have a Facebook account until 4 years ago when Clubhouse opened. I did not have Instagram. I did not have Twitter. I lived on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Privacy is everything to me. And yet I find myself contradicting myself and my nature of, oh, I'm at this dinner table because Migena invited me. Oh, actually, Migena introduced me to this person, therefore this happened. Like somehow I've been the glue in my network since before I even started the first grade. So let's go back. And then you come forward. I had to question my thought process. How is it that I love people so much? I love connected. I am known and recognized at this point as being a global focus connector, a business matchmaker, a master networker, all these adjectives or descriptions that I did not come up with, but people were constantly identifying them for me. And then I go on this social app and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have been missing out. So coming from someone who was against social media, I would say.
Yo, guys, what's going on? I appreciate you. Thank you. Turn on all bell notifications, subscribe, like, and comment to the podcast. It's the best way to stay up to date. And hey, it helps us gain the clarity and boost ourselves into that algorithm. We appreciate the support each and every day, each and every week. Let's keep on going to keep on growing. Peace.
I wouldn't say like the number one supporter because we all are, but I am definitely recommending the app to anyone who is doubting the quality of the app, the caliber of the app, the quality of the creators, the quality of the development team. And the beautiful thing is that we get to be part of something amazing that's being created and that we are part of the foundation in many levels because we are beta testers. And to shout it out, it's an understatement. And it's not doing justice to the app because I can't even describe it. And you and I connected there, Rory, maybe a couple of weeks ago. And look, we're already having thoughtful conversations. We're getting to know each other and having a lot of conversations offline and honoring and recognizing who we are as people and respecting the fact that we are choosing on a daily basis to invest time because the people are there for us. So we don't have to get on a flight, on a car, on a train to go meet a few people and get to know them better. Actually, we are getting to know people as we apply makeup, as we're making coffee, as we're doing laundry. And it's magical. That's all I will say.
Absolutely.
It's magical. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll say this, as somebody that's been 7 years in podcasting and what social audio has done for me, it's allowed me to clear the overhead of connecting with a lot of different guests. So not to give the shine to Clubhouse, but a lot of my higher prospected guests that I've brought onto the platform were through Clubhouse because I found out there was that overhead. Now I look at Chatter. The thing what Chatter is going to do, that camera aspect where we can now be in rooms and be on camera and I can create and basically connect my mic with my phone and basically run the podcast out of a Chatter room, it's game over. You can't replace that, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll say this, if you don't know much about Migena, ask Migena is her rooms. And she is such a breath of fresh air. She creates, she does the things that matter. And you know what? I'm truly humble that I could have the ability to even connect with you the first time we got into the private beta. You know what I mean? It was amazing.
I want to thank you because it, as I say, it takes two to tango. And I would like to apologize in advance to everyone who's listening for me being a few times politically incorrect. I was born and raised in Albania, and I am a fanatic of being Albanian, and I refuse to understand all the slangs and all the meanings of all the English words because I feel like that part of me that's Albanian will get faded, never lost. But I want to keep that originality, and by choice, I do not want to know what something means because I want to bring the expression thinking in Albanian and then translating in English. So if I say what I say, and when I say it takes two to tango, someone may say, oh, what just happened? To me is I could be whoever I am, but it takes the other person to, one, recognize it, and then two, take action and reach out, because you exist, I exist, we all exist, and we can all exist. But how about we hold hands, and how about we connect and make that energetic connection, and then transfer it and create this opportunity now to have a conversation. So it's never about me, or it's never about Rory. It's about two people recognizing that there is something that they bring to the table to make the world a better place based on their assessment. And I want to thank you for pretty much seeing me and saying, hi, I think we should get on a conversation on my podcast. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, wait, I don't think I qualify for your podcast.
It's not about that, though. It's not
So
about
I
that.
am truly honored to be here, and I mean it, Rory. Thank you so much for making time to have me on, so I could be Migena.
And you know what? It speaks to what we do best: communication. And it's the number one thing you need to be able to build some sort of connection with collaboration, right? And I think that one of the biggest pillars is connection. We're striving for it. We're hungry for it.
So hungry.
I always like to use the reference of like a vice grip, but I feel like it was robbed from us 3-4 years ago when we were living in the whole pandemic season. How important for you is communication? And I know that, speak to like your story in little tidbits and things like that of how you've used that to amplify who you are as the powerhouse.
Communication. Communication comes in many forms. You communicate through energy, you communicate through eyes. You don't have to say anything and you are communicating. You can communicate through how you enter a restaurant and how you greet the hostess. You communicate through a simple nod or a smile and let the person know that you see them. And you may not necessarily be able to verbally say something, but your attitude, the way you carry yourself, it's a beautiful form of communication, because you can still enter that same restaurant and greet that hostess with good morning. And it can be the coldest, harshest good morning she would ever hear in her life. And that doesn't mean that you communicated with her. It doesn't mean that you saw her. It was just automatic, and you probably like insulted her or made her moment a bad one. So communication is very important. And I always want to stress on the fact that just because you say I love you and just because you say I miss you, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. How you say it is everything. It's more important. It's senior to just saying it. How we show up, it's senior to showing up. So when we show up, that's a form of communication. When we speak the right words, that's communication. But when we don't speak and we simply hold space, that's communication. Listening, it's a form of communication. And I truly believe it's an art. It's something that we need to work towards on a daily basis. Just like with everything else in life, I truly believe that when communication is cracked, and not necessarily broken, but even cracked, I believe that you have those magical tapes and glues and crazy glues, and you can work towards repaving the surface and making it smooth again. I am a hopeless romantic. I'm a big believer that regardless of me being extreme and having these harsh boundaries in the eyes of some, but to me they're just boundaries. I truly believe that if someone picks up the phone and be the first person to reach out and say, look, I've been wrong, I want to apologize, or this is how I feel right now, and this is how you're making me feel right now. And the reason why I'm coming to you is because I care. Then there's so much room for growth there. So I feel communication is, it's a beautiful tool that we can all use. but it's not something that we learn today. And that's how we operate in the days and years and centuries to come. It's something that it's ever evolving, just like we are evolving. And it's something that gets up leveled, just like we as human beings get up leveled and refined. So communication is this beautiful, beautiful, ever growing, I would say, plant. I think communication, it's like the sun. Communication gives life to relationships, and the wrong communication can destroy, because too much sun is not good for us, and no sun is not good for us either. So being able to understand who it is that you have in front of you and work around that and create your own balance, if you believe in it, and you would be a much better human being. And that's why, yeah, communication is up there for me.
There's a
With
lot of power
loyalty.
in what you. There's a lot of power into what you say. I remember it was Father's Day weekend, and I was in the store. I was getting a card, and there was a lady that was in front of me. And the way I had the card held in my hand and had my headphones in, she was like, "Oh, you just reminded me I had to go get a Father's Day card." I said to her, "I was like, hey, you can step out of line. I'll hold your spot. You can go get the card." She goes, "No, I'll get it another day. I'll just get it tomorrow or something like that." Because she was
Oh,
on her break, right? So she works at like the wine place and stuff like that. And it's so crazy because I said to her, and I said, because she just made a harmless conversation. I said, how's your day treating you?" She goes, "It's doing well, thank you." She goes, "How's your day?" I said, "It's going well." Just within that, the energy and the frequency.
shifted.
And she didn't even, I don't think she even seen that coming, because after we had that little back and forth, she turned and she looked at me again and she gave me a smile. And it's like, sometimes in life, you don't know what people are going through. You don't. And what I'm trying to say is, may not do that for everyone, but when that energy and that frequency is present. That's why when I walk down the street, or if I'm in the gym or wherever I'm at, and somebody looks at me, I'll nod my head,
Yeah,
man or woman, and
acknowledge.
they greet back, and they like, some people are taken by it. They're like, but you know what? Like, this is what we need in our
It's
life.
probably foreign to some, right? What is
Hmm.
that? How do I respond to that? Or how do I react to that? Am I supposed to nod back? Which is, it's interesting to watch, for
Oh,
sure. For
absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So you speak a lot about boundaries, right? And this is what we talk about here on the podcast: overcoming adversity, entrepreneurship,
Mm.
finding your way, passion, all that. You speak about boundaries. Why do you think a lot of folks don't know how to really unlock those boundaries for themselves? And how have you put that into your reps of life?
Why some people don't unlock their boundaries.
Hmm.
I feel and I believe it has to do with their upbringing. When you grow up in environments that you feel very restricted, and the only time you operate is when you're being told so, you have no space to build boundaries there. There's no space because you don't have a say. Because to me, boundary is having a say, having a voice. And now you take that molding into the adulthood, and you now apply it without even realizing it. And many people to this day probably don't realize that they do that. They don't even realize that they are boundless, or very little boundaries, or they replace that word with something else because that's how they have been programmed and trained. So I am blessed and grateful to say that I grew up in an environment with a very strong mother, very intelligent, wise, a billion% forgiving. My mother forgives everything and everyone. And I get mad. I'm like, no. And she's just like smiles and she's like, okay. And I grew up with my mother making sure that I had a seat at the table, with the adults, even when I was a child. She always wanted to know my opinion. She always wanted me to use my voice. And when I would express myself or ask a question, she would bring that question back to me. So then I could come up with the answer before she gave me her answer. And I wouldn't understand that. But over time, I come to realize that it's one of the best trainings, the most powerful trainings I've received from mom. The fact that Migena has a voice. Migena has her own opinions that she will express. And when you have opinions that you express, then you start little by little, brick by brick, you build your own character, or rather, you recognize your character and your personality and who you are and how you are to others and what makes you upset and what doesn't. And in order for you to not feel this feeling tomorrow, what can be done? And that action could be called a break of boundary. You cannot say to me this because that doesn't make me feel good. But I wouldn't know that unless that took place. So at first, it's an open field for everyone to test everyone. Then you make it 100% your responsibility for how others treat you, respond to you, react to you. And then you start building these boundaries. Is it easy? No, it's not. Do we let go of some boundaries? Absolutely. Boundaries are not permanent. We have temporary boundaries and then we have permanent boundaries. There's different ones. As they say, non-negotiables. Like, what's a non-negotiable? That's a hard boundary. You don't just rush into my house. You knock. You wait for someone to open the door, and you may or may not be allowed to enter the door. Just because I open it, it doesn't mean that you have permission to step in, unless you're being given permission to step in. If that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. This is the art of storytelling, ladies and gentlemen. Keep going. I love this.
So that's a permanent boundary. But that's not something that that person who knocked on the door knows about. Because perhaps in another house, when he knocked on that door, maybe the door was open and he just rushed in and made himself at home. You are you, and this is your boundary. You are responsible to train the person that knocked on your door. How they knock on your door? Because it's also very important. There's a boundary there. How do you knock on the person's door? Is it a loud knock that freaks out everyone in the household? Or is it a soft one? How do you greet that person? With a smile or no smile? And how do they greet you back? That's a form of boundary, where you don't just stand in front of me and give me that look. But I train you. It's my responsibility. Now, you don't just rush in. You have to wait to be given permission. But I need to make sure that you understand that this is a different environment. Therefore, it requires a different approach. So that's boundary. And this, I'm speaking metaphorically here, but this is how you can see it. And I'm going to give you a quick example.
No, by all means, let's go. Let's do it.
So I've been in the real estate space for going on decade number 2, and in different roles, from human resources recruiter to supervision, project management, area director, and then the director of business development for different companies in New York City, with national responsibilities, local responsibilities. So one of my main roles, especially in the last job that I had, was to expand the presence of our company in New York. And I would make it a point that on a weekly basis, I would take out at least 2 to 3 prospects who, for the most part, were my friends that I have built, friendships that I have built over the years in the industry. But now that I have a different role, the dynamic of the friendship doesn't change. But the meeting itself changes a little bit because they know now that in addition to us catching up, I also need to speak to them about the services that we offer. And there's men and there's women and there's people that are younger than me, older than me, my age, from different walks of life. So navigating in the space as a woman in this industry who is a male dominant industry, boundaries are very important because you go to restaurants, to lunches, to dinners, and there's alcohol involved. And I never drank. I don't drink by choice, even though we had a vineyard back in Albania, and I remember working the land with my dad and planting those vineyards and then making wine and alcohol so we can sell in our own restaurant in Albania. So I've always been surrounded by plants and land and animals and lived in a building. So I lived a city life and a farm's life all in one, and building character like that as well. And I just never developed a love for alcohol. In fact, I love the idea of it. I love the beautiful bottles. I just don't like the taste of it. So coming in the city now in this job decades later, where everyone is ordering wine, and I would order cranberry juice or milk if they had.
Yeah.
Everyone would say, Migena, but have a glass of wine. I said, no, thank you. And they're like, when did you stop? I said, oh my God, let me tell you, I never started. And today is not going to be the day I start. And they're like, this is insane. But wait, you have to have a glass of wine. And I would say, well, let me correct you. I actually don't need to have a glass of wine. I promise you. And boundary number one versus let's drop the conversation. You know that I will not drink. So we can talk about it for the rest of the lunch or talk about something else. But this is a boundary. You don't pour wine into my glass. You can, and I'll cheer and I'll have a sip. But that's the end of that. That's one boundary. So anyways, I'm in all these spaces. And fast forward, a friend of mine asks me a question. He's like, how do you do it? I'm like, do what? He's like, you are a master networker, but even more, you are a master at friend zoning everybody. Like, how do you do it? I'm like, well, I charge a lot for that advice. So let's not talk about that, but get to the point. Because this is not the question you want to ask me. What are you trying to get at? And he says, how do you manage that you take clients to lunches and dinners and you make it a point or manage for people to see you as Migena, the director of business development? You're here just for business. And that's the end of the conversation, especially for people who don't know you, because everyone who knows you, they know you and your boundaries, because there is no need for you to tell us. It's just how you show up, how you carry yourself, and you have already created your boundaries and you've trained us. But for the ones who don't know you and they may make a move on you, like how do you navigate that? Like how? I said, well, okay. I said, first and foremost, I am the one who makes the reservation. 2, I always reserve the lunch or the dinner at the restaurant of my choice because I know the people who work there. So safety. I always request a table with chairs and never a booth. And I always sit in front of the client or never next to them. So there's a lot of things you can do to initiate how you're setting the tone. And that doesn't take away the friendliness. It doesn't take away the professionalism. It doesn't take away the warmth of the conversation. It's two human beings talking about business, getting to know each other, and facing each other versus being next to each other. That to the third person coming in, not knowing what's going on, could be interpreted very, very differently. Because let's face it, human beings like to assume, human beings like to create perceptions. And I don't agree that perception becomes your reality. You decide what becomes reality, not the perception itself. So, and then I go on and telling my friend, I said, when I do all of these things, perhaps I'm now going to be accused of being a control freak because I'm controlling the situation. I said, call it whatever you want. I called it self-respect and respect for the other person. Because when I am doing all of these things, and again, not overthinking, but just thinking strategically, I have protected myself and the person that's sitting in front of me. I have made the two of us my responsibility. And he can do the same, she can do the same. I said, so when I am in situations that I have to take one person to lunch or dinner, these are the 4 or the 5 things that I do. To, of course, the way you dress, you wear a blazer, you wear professional, and we can do whatever we want. We can be whoever we want. But if you choose to be these things, then this is going to be the outcome. And if you choose to do something else, and that's going to be the other outcome. So again, the way we show up, how we show up, the boundaries, and the things that you learn along the way, and how to make it easy for yourself, comfortable for yourself, and for the other person. It makes a big difference in how you conduct business, because life and business, it's one. It's not 2 separate things where I get to be Migena, the cook at home, and then be Migena, the businesswoman out there. I am Migena, period. Everything else is just, today I'm wearing yellow, tomorrow I'm going to wear green and maybe white and whatever. So yeah, just a little bit of a story with how I have navigated and created boundaries, not necessarily spoken boundaries, but action boundaries.
No, but I think this within that little bit there's a lot that every man and every woman can take. You know what I mean? And I feel like not to counter what you're saying, but it's like if you're going out and you're meeting somebody that maybe you're wanting to date, that's why I don't do the whole sit across the table, because it's too like business like. I rather sit beside to get a better perspective, to show you that like this is not an interview, this is not going to be a podcast, we're not trying to compare notes, I'm not trying to sign you into a business deal, you know what I mean, things like that. I'm trying to get, who are you as a person? Can I be comfortable enough around you? It's a safe space and everything like that. You know what I mean?
Of
So
course.
yeah,
And
food for thought for the audience there.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's this is my way, but it doesn't make it the way. We can create our own non-negotiables and boundaries, 100%. Like I said, along the way, you drop a few and you build a few. So there's always room for tailoring there. It's not set in stone.
I'm gonna give you your flowers, because what you speak about the story about, you know, your mom, networking, things like that. It even speaks to you, because I know you're being so humble on the show here. You're such a badass when it comes down to.
Okay, let's leave the hair down. Now we're gonna get to the.
Now we're gonna get to it, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we're here. But you're such a badass when it comes down to what you have done in your world of connecting with women and the books that you've written. You have those books present, right?
I do. Would you like to see them?
Well, let's put this, just show the books to the audience, and this is your time. This is your chair now.
I've been working out so much because they're so heavy. You can't carry them, you guys. And that's me being silly, and I'm not kidding. So it's only 5. But another thing about me, you guys, I love hardcover versus paperback because they last longer. And Rory and I were having a conversation before we went on the record here. He and I met on Zoom the other day, and I had a shirt that's 25 years old. And I'm so proud of that shirt because of the memories. And oh my goodness. And I wear it with so much pride. And I want everybody to know that it's a 25-year-old shirt and looks like it was bought yesterday. But anyways, back to the books here. So there's 5 books here. 3 of them are titled Powerful Female Immigrants Who Inspire Greatness. 24 Women, Stories, Movements. Talk about social media and the power of networking, the power of connecting, the power of being seen, recognized, and the power of saying yes. All of those. A lot of things have to happen in order for this to happen, or anything to happen, really. I connected with a publisher on Clubhouse 4 years ago when we had in real live meetups with groups from Clubhouse, from the spaces that we curated the most. There were about 30 of us or 40 here in New York City, people traveling from all over the country and the world, believe it or not. I happened to meet in person the publisher. His name is Michael Butler from Beyond Publishing. And about a year later, so we meet in July 2021. June 2022, I receive a text message. I'm on a red eye traveling to New York from a work trip. And here is Michael texting me saying, I'm doing a book project called Powerful Female Immigrants. I believe you'd make a great addition. I'm nominating you. I respond back, LOL. I think you have the wrong number, Michael. This is Migena. He's like, his response is, LOL. I know this is you, Migena. I'm like, Michael, wait, you want me to ruin your book project? He's like, why do you say that? I said, because I'm not an author. I've always wanted to write a book, but I'm not an author. He said, look, we're telling stories here. I'm like, oh, now we're speaking. Again, the power of communication and how it's interpreted. Because now it's shifted for me. Now I give myself permission because I felt comfortable telling a story. I did not feel comfortable being called an author because I don't think I was deserving, because I don't believe I earned that right to be called an author. Because in my mind, an author is someone who's written a few books and earned that right to be called that. But as far as storytelling, let me tell you, every single person in this world is a storyteller, including the cats, the dogs, the trees, the botanical gardens, the forest, the ocean. Oceans tell stories. Trees tell stories. Trees play music. Oceans play music as they tell the story. There's melody. So I'm like, I'm in, because that I knew, because no one could tell my story better than me. And guess what? I made it a mission to highlight my mother, and I asked permission if I could highlight my mother in this story. And that's what happened, and how my journey in storytelling began, with being one of the 24 authors in Powerful Female Immigrants, a project from the Beyond Publishing. I bring my mother in Dallas, and this is us at the studio. This is mommy, and this is me.
Look at you. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
And the title of my first book ever, my first collaboration ever is, and of course I'm probably where are you from? I love being asked, where are you from? And in that story, I speak about how I got my visa at the US Embassy to come into this country. I had my appointment on April 15th. I moved into this country April 23rd. So not even 10 days later. I was fascinated with the whole process of storytelling, writing, and bringing back those emotions that oftentimes we park in that shelf of memories. Because I have a shelf of dreams, and then I have the shelf of memories. And there's many stacks, right? And what a beautiful experience to go back in time and bring to the surface a story that is yours, that no one else can tell better than you. A few months later, the publisher reaches out and says, look, this has been the most fun project of this company, and we've published over 800 books at this point. I am going to launch volume 2. Feel free to nominate somebody that you know, a woman you know that is an immigrant, because there's always a story there. Let me tell you, I went crazy with it. I said, hold that thought, Mr. Publisher. Volume 2, 24 women. There is me right there. All other 23 women are my ladies. I get to claim them. I sent probably 60, 70 introductions to Michael. And I mean, Dr. Yinka from Nigeria, Barbara from Germany, Shirley from Dominican Republic. She's a veteran. She's a badass. She's a veteran. She's the one who trains the guys to jump off planes. I don't know what that's called, but special ops, something. Dr. Yinka is a doctor in Texas, but from Nigeria originally. Jodi Sacco, South Africa. She had to escape all that craziness that's happening in South Africa. Who else? The Vietnamese sisters, the Fierce Six, Kelly and Marianne. Super successful, dope women. You name it. So many others. We go to the book launch, and I get awarded for going above and beyond, for bringing all these women into this book. I mean, what an honor. And I pretty much converted these women from limited belief to limitless belief when it comes to putting the word into a paper. I forced a few of them who said no. And I said, no, you can't say no because you don't know what you don't know. Please. Because I would make it my responsibility based on my experience, and not guaranteeing that they would have the same experience, but they would have their own experience that would be priceless. And when they would be interviewed, they would say, and the publisher would ask, how did you end up in the book? And they would say, well, and I would be in the studio as they would be on chair. They would point back at me, well, Migena asked me, and I said yes. And I'd be like, hold on a second. And then I just got up and I'm like, no, you said yes to you. You didn't say yes to me. So let's just clear that up over there. Yes, I did force you. I twisted your arm a little bit, and I'm not regretting it, and I'll do it over and over. So let's just, I'm still going to be me, but with a smile. So now here is another 24 women. So there's 48. And then the publisher says, we're going to have volume 3. I'm like, I am signing up for all of them. Now I'm on volume 3, and there's 25, if you noticed. And the reason there's 25 is because the publishing company said, look, you've been bringing so many women, you've changing lives. A lot of these women are now publishing their own books because you are that connector. You are that community builder. We are going to gift your mother a chapter so she gets to represent all the mothers of all the women that are sharing their immigrant stories as an immigrant mother, because I would bring my mom at the launches, at the interview, and literally she adopted all of them. And I said, I need to apply for like 3 jobs because just gifts for birthdays would not be enough money for me, because now I end up with like 50 sisters into book launches. I'm like, what is this? I can't take her anywhere because I have like all these sisters because they all adopted mom. So now mom on book 3 is the author who represents all the moms. And there is me, and this is mom. And of course, mom is here with dad and my brothers, so the 4 of us. So that's 3. And because I love law, and not to mention, again, nominated a lot of these women. And here I knew, wow, 90% of them. There's probably 2 women that I didn't introduce to this project, but the other 20, again, repeat authors and new authors, women, first-time authors, and just super powerful immigrants. And I would say in the social media posts, if you are a woman and you're an immigrant, I know you are powerful. DM me.
Okay.
So that
Here's
was
the pitch right there. And if you
that.
don't connect with Migena, then I don't know what to tell you.
So anyways, I get inspired, and I said, you know what? With a lady friend of mine who is not an immigrant, I told her on the phone that you don't qualify, because she was so curious about how many stories can I possibly share in these books? Like, you say one and done. I'm like, no. Every day in the life of an immigrant, it's a story in itself. So I promise you, there's never lack of stories in our world. I said, because you don't qualify, you and I can maybe write a book a little bit different. She's like, about what? I'm like, women in real estate. The power of communication, the power of asking questions. And that led to the birth of Real Women in Real Estate, aka Rewire. I said, we're going to call it Rewire. Who has time to say Real Women in Real Estate? Let's call it Rewire. There's meaning to it. And there's my name, there's Brooke's name. And of the women together, all 30 women in this book that we brought together, friends from the powerful female immigrants that were there and the women from the real estate space. We all came up with the colors. We all came up with the title. And I always wanted something like this where you don't truly see colors of women. You decide what this woman looks like. And I said, we need one in the center. And then I said, wow, this kind of looks like me. I like this. Anyway,
you would say that, though. You would say that.
I did. No, and I said that. I'm like, oh, this looks like me. I think now the book is complete. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. But pretty much 30 women, the foreword written by Veena Jetty, who's done $1 billion in real estate transactions, an Indian woman, total powerhouse in the real estate space. Super honored to have her write the foreword for us. And then, because we loved it so much, we launched the second volume on International Women's Day. A lot of repeat women from the first volume and another 18 new ones. And because it's such a beautiful and fun project, we are launching now in October the final volume of Real Women in Real Estate, because I truly wanted to end on a high note, strong note, and we are going to take Rewire 2.0 and create stages for ourselves, because I've been that person who paid to sit down, then invested to sit down. At first, you don't know
that you say that.
At first, you don't know if you're paying, if you're wasting, if you're investing. You don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. And when you go into this space, not knowing what you know, and we spoke about this, Rory, having very little expectations or no expectations at all, but reminding yourself of the high standards that you have created for yourself, boundaries, call them whatever you want, you will never be disappointed going into these spaces. So I was the person who paid to sit down. Then I started to invest to sit down somewhere and have a seat at the table. I invested because I worked hard all my life so I could have a seat at the table, secure my seat at the table because of the hard work over the years. And then I invested to stand up. I invested in book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, invested financially, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. There's a lot of investment that goes into writing a book, because once you do it, divorce is not an option. You cannot undo it. You are forever tied and connected to that book, to the story. And now, all these women who are so passionate and have amazing stories, inspiring stories, they don't necessarily have stages because they have to prove themselves. I have to prove myself on a daily basis as a woman in this industry and in any industry. Guess what? Now we can create our own stages. We have our own super powerful speakers. We have books. We have receipts. This is a global business card. It will open doors. It will build credibility. And at the end of the day, we can call ourselves authors or not, but guess what? The world, we know us just a little bit better. And when we are expressing our words into paper and voice, we are respecting ourselves. We are honoring our ancestors' sacrifices. Because if, like Grant Cardone says, if they don't know you, they won't flow you. If they don't know you, they won't flow you energy. They won't flow your attention. And if you don't want any of those, I respect that. But if you are that person who is looking for that, you got to look inside. That's where all the answers are. Rory doesn't have the answers. Migena doesn't have the answers for you. Because the moment the entrepreneurship journey started for me is when I shifted what I would tell myself on a daily basis. Oh my God, life is taking me to be the hostess and make $5 an hour. Life is taking me to start college at 24 and have a full-time job carrying heavy plates, smelling like fish every night and perfume every morning. Life is taking me to be a part-time or full-time HR on a temporary job. I know I'm going to not have at the end of 6 months and it's paying me this little, but I'm still waiting tables at night and wearing a tie and a uniform and a suit and heels every day. And then life took me here, life took me there. Then I said, wait a second. Watch me where I take life, because life is no longer going to take me. And when I made that decision, when I gave myself permission to give life to my dreams, that's when everything shifted. And I accomplished in the last 2 years more than I have accomplished in the last 21 years that I've been in this country combined. So it's a 21-year overnight success. You turn around and you're like, how can you accomplish a book in 3 months? I'm like, you can. And I can show you how. And I'm not even a publisher. And I don't need to be a publisher. I don't have to be a publisher. I just have to be me. And believe in the experience, believe in the outcome, and it's going to be different for everyone. So that's the book journey, but it ties into so many aspects of entrepreneurship, businessship, partnership, friendship, loveship, hardship, all the ships. And you can take just this one story and apply to, if you don't believe in your story, why should someone else believe in your story? And I was on Chatter yesterday and we had a room. And my share was, and I have this book that I write quotes that I come up with. Only when you find you, you will be found by others. So that was my yesterday's quote. So that was my quote that I created as a result of these beautiful conversations that are taking place in Chatter and social apps as a result. And also, do not wait to start and wait. So you can't blame anybody. You can be a victim or you can be victorious. And that's the reason why the moment I said to myself, I am going to take life, watch me, life is no longer going to take me. I made my first real estate investment. I joined the real estate club and hung out with Grant Cardone for a full year. I made the investment to be a certified business trainer, advisor, coach, and mentor, so I could have that certification, that credibility, because seeing receipts is very important. Everyone can show up and say, I am, but have you done the work? Have you shown up? How have you shown up and how much have you shown up? And why should I trust your space, your energy? What have you done? Are you the backbone of this creation? Are you a hand holder of that creation? Are you an ear of this creation? Are you the supporter of that creation? Are you a shoulder? Are you the eyes? And we bring so much to the table and it's always different. You can't expect the person to accept you. You have to accept you. And if you feel that you are a phenomenal listener, guess what? You're doing a lot for that creation. And if you believe that you're the people gatherer, you are doing a lot. So I went and I invested in that same year, last year. And then I am now working on book number 6. And it's only been 2 years that I started the book journey. Then I was discovered to run the red carpet for a business competition TV show at a networking event, to which I thought it was a complete scam. I was extremely suspicious and skeptical. And I spoke to the founders just like that. I said, I am skeptical. This sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? Just like that. Again, going back to the power of communication, how you communicate and not sugarcoating things and speaking your heart without insulting anyone, because you're protecting you and you're protecting them and you're protecting everything you've built so far and what you're going to build and the people that you don't even know but know you. Like, the responsibility is huge. You think you're doing this just for you? You're wrong. Think again. So there I am, being approached at this networking event that I didn't want to show up because my excuse was I'm catching a plane to go to Albania that evening. Then I had to talk to myself carried myself on the subway, had my heels in my bag, showed up at this event a little bit later, left by midday, and there I met the founders of America's Real Deal, a business competition TV show. Had no idea they were on TV. And the wife says, I don't know you, but something tells me that you should interview our business owners, our investors, our mentors, our advisors for the first red carpet premiere in LA. And I was like, what's the catch? There's no catch. I'm like, there's always a catch. Tell me the catch. And let's move on. And I'm like, let me hear this correctly. You are asking me, a person you don't know that has no following, is not an influencer, to the caliber that we are trained that you need to have a million followers or A, B, C, D, E. I said, I sound silly. I have an accent. I'm like pretty much everything you don't want. And she shook her hand and she says, you manifested this, didn't you?
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what is this woo-woo craziness here? I'm like, what does that even mean? She's like, never mind. I said, you're okay with me ruining your first premiere? She's like, yes. I said, well, let me tell you this. If you're okay with me ruining your first premiere, I am very okay with ruining your first premiere. And if you go and pick someone else, I'm going to kidnap you. And if you don't know, watch the movie Taken. That's me.
I get the reference point now.
And then she's like, oh God. She's like, if you come back before October 12th, it's yours. I said, oh yeah, I'll be back before then. I go to Albania, absolutely convinced that I was going to get a call. Hey, we found someone else. Absolutely convinced. Talking about zero expectations, Rory. I was very prepared for the rejection. But before I left for that meeting that we had with them, I asked Adam, I said, why me? He takes out his phone and he started to show me pictures of me at the event networking with people. He's like, that's why. I'm like, oh, that's the catch. He's like, what? I'm like, you're a stalker. Okay, stalker. Now I know. Now I know who I'm facing. Let's move on. I'm okay with that. So that was the beginning of my TV journey, that as a little girl, I always dreamed of having my own TV show where my main mission was to ask people questions where everybody smiles and laughs. Like, I want people to be comfortable, because if we're in a conversation and no one is smiling, ooh, I take it personal. I'm like, what is it that I'm doing? Because no one is smiling or laughing. So making people comfortable, it's huge for me. So that took place because, again, even when I didn't believe in myself, I still got up, dressed up, showed up. And the formula is be you 100% of the time. Be 100% of the time you. And the right opportunity will find you when you find you. So now I'm an associate producer for that business competition TV show. We're getting ready to film season 2 next month, or as soon as we get those, celebrities signing up. I have a lot of my friends interested to be on the show. We bring investors in studio and they get to invest alongside the icons. I brought the first icons on the show. Super proud of that powerful couple. Can't share names, but you will see them.
Oh yeah, you just do the behind the scenes on Chatter.
I will get you guys, give you guys the green room, the gala, so on and so forth. I opened my own business as a business matchmaker. I've spoken on stages. I have interviewed people on stages. I have been trusted with the mic on stages to be a panelist and do the interviewing or share my journey. I've been in many podcasts. I opened my own Ask Migena show, which is a very organic, unfiltered, unedited, real, raw. Don't ask me about technology, the starting music, the captions. I don't do that. I just do this. And whoever joins, good for me and good for them. And if not, good for me and good for them. And when I quit my job and I decided to take life I had 0 paychecks coming in for years. And I was feeling the wealthiest of all the years that I lived in this country, because I went from limited vertical city, New York City, vertical, tiny island, looking upwards, which is beautiful, to limitless and going horizontal and expanding globally. And when you give yourself permission to travel with your imagination, it truly becomes reality. It truly does. And I never thought I would be that catalyst or that spark that would convert a lot of my friends into first-time authors, give them that chair, that stage where now we get to decide how long we speak on that stage and not feel rushed, what we share on that stage, when we share it, how we dress up for it, if we cry or laugh, if we walk on that stage dancing or not. We get to determine the rules. And because someone else did it, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just doing it my way because I know my ladies and they know me. And I know they're saying yes to themselves, but I also do know, and I'm learning to accept recognition that they are also saying yes to me because they trust me. And when you are in these beautiful environments, you are responsible, you're loyal to them, you hold them sacred. They need to know they're always covered, that we always have their backs. That, let me put it this way, Rory, when we have our meetings, I don't record Zoom calls. I'm afraid that the recording will swim 10 years later and a woman's share that is so intimate and so private. It's supposed to happen right then and there, and that's that. And if you're not part of that meeting, it's not a problem. So I am so overprotective of the energy and the women that come into these ecosystems that it's not about having women coming into our books and events, the right women. And the ones who are not ready, we want those too, because I wasn't ready. But someone extended the conversation and said, well, think about it. And then I said, okay. Because we don't always have the hard yes from the beginning. And the number one advice I give is say yes before you say no. Say yes before you say no. Because you're saying yes to you and everyone else that you will know, and their families and their networks. And that's why I am very excited for this final volume, because I truly want to move on and do the stages and have people come and meet these women, because they deserve to be met and recognized and seen and heard. And there's so much to be learned from them. They are a well of wisdom. And the most fun part about the book project with Real Women in Real Estate is the fact that I forced them to read their own chapters. They did not like their voices. I didn't like my voice. But guess what? We launched, actually, it was live 2 days ago. Rewired 2 is finally live on Audible, iTunes.
Okay.
So you get to hear now 28 voices on the 28 stories in our chapter. So you hear my story the way I say it. So you don't have to wonder what an Albanian accent sounds like, a Nigerian accent sounds like, a Vietnamese accent sounds like, and you get to hear it directly from the person who lived the story. So it's truly storytelling. So that's the most fun part about this project for Migena, because when you connect the voice with the story, you truly have almost a full picture about that person. And it's so cool. I mean, I can talk forever about this, Rory.
Oh no, and I know that. I know that.
Forever.
I feel like what I would want to say is, in conclusion to everything that you said, the breath of fresh air that you are, the storytelling is immaculate. That's what we do on this platform. We'll speak behind scenes, because you remind me of a gentleman that was a Disney animator that came on this platform,
that his name is Sal Blinkoff. And I'm going to tell you the epitome of how you can storytell. I'm feeling under the weather. So for you to just do what you just did there, I thank you, because it's like, you know what? This is what we have this platform to do. Educate, teach, and inspire. Doesn't matter if you're 13 years old, 14 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old. That's why we do what we do. But before we get out of here, Migena, plug all your information on social media and let everybody know where they can check you out.
Yeah, so it's very simple. Migena NYC. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Migena Agaray on LinkedIn, Migena Agaray on YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel.
Oh, they're going to have to.
Not necessarily. And please leave comments and reach out to me. Let me know if you want to hang out on my podcast. Let me know if you want to hang out in books with us. Let me know if you want to hang out at our event. Come to our launch of the final Rewire before we move on to bigger things with what we've built so far. Let me know if you need me to match you and your business with another business. If you're looking to sell your business, let me know. Ask Migena. If you're looking to sell or buy, ask Migena. If you're looking for an investment opportunity, ask Migena. If you want to be on the show and hang out with me in studio in Salt Lake City, ask me.
See, I want to hit that soundboard and go. But anyways,
ask Migena. It's very easy. Just ask me. You'd be surprised.
Ask Migena. Listen, it's just a name, folks. It's just a name. We're gonna put it on a T-shirt soon enough.
I think I'm gonna do that. Maybe like a hat. Ask Migena.
You got to. Well, Migena, I appreciate you too.